Hello and welcome to Macro Mondays on a Wednesday. My apologies, I did not have a video ready for this past Monday. Had some personal issues that came up, but here we are. Today is Wednesday. This is going to be May 17th, 2023, and we're going to take a look at Bitcoin on the longer term time frames and weave that into our daily analysis. Now, we actually are going to start with the daily today because I do think that there's some pretty important things happening in the current range, and we're going to get right into it right now. So we can see that if you watched yesterday's video, the Bitcoin in 60 seconds video, that I had mentioned this wick low over here at about 26,500 to about 26,800, and that area is the area to watch, because if Bitcoin rather does break down from there, then we start looking to the range wick lows and then the previous daily breakout area down here in this yellow zone, which would then open up the possibility of testing that weekly support down there at 24.3. Well, Bitcoin did come down and spike that area right around 20. Let's see, what was the low? It was at 26,543. So right into that zone, and it did get bought up. So that is pretty important because Bitcoin has spent a bit of time here going sideways in this area on the lows. We see the previous wick low over here, and we see the new wick low right here at around 25.8. The previous wick low was at 26.5. So we have a bit of a zone down here that got ran on this wick, which is a bit of a backfill of this nice girthy green candle here. So if Bitcoin is going to head on up, I still need to see 28,000 closed above on a daily. That would be encouraging that the bulls are starting to regain control of this range. But realistically, anything below 28.6, I'm not too excited about. If Bitcoin can regain and close above 28.6, then I do think that gives it the opportunity to come up and run around 29.5 to $30,000, and then possibly continue up to the highs at around 30,500 on the high of the range on a close open basis, and the range wick high here at $31,000. I do think if that was the case where Bitcoin did run these highs again, it's likely to head up to the weekly support resistance area, in this case resistance at 31.8 to around that area at 32.4. So be very aware of what's going on in some of these lower term timeframes as you take a look at the daily. So let's go ahead and get into the macro side of things, though. We do have a 2-week closure coming up with this weekly candle. So we got the weekly 2-week, and I believe we're going to get 4-week. Yes, we will. So we're going to get a 2-week, 4-week closure. And what I'm watching for here is a bit of a reaccumulation, and that is what it's looking like currently. So that's where we do need to keep an eye on those important supports within the range and just below the range on the daily time frames, because this will play into the rest of this week and then the next 2-week candle. Now, why am I drawing your attention to the 2-week? Well, because Stoke is right up there in the critical area, and it is in the critical overbought area, but it has not crossed down and confirmed a cross down or a momentum shift with Stoke just yet. Now, in fact, this is looking more like it wants to continue to go a bit higher in the oversold zone as it stands right now. And if you want to get an idea of what that pivot is, I do have a tool that I'm using. I got it from crowntrading.net. It is a tool that was developed by KV? We're gonna go and look at this because I don't have any affiliation with them, but if you were interested, I do want to get it right. KVDB Advanced Stoke. So that I don't have any affiliation with them. I don't make any money off of telling you where I got this from, but if you were interested, that's where I got it from. And that's you can always go to Eric Crown Crypto on YouTube and follow the links there. I believe it's crowntrading.net. But in this case, we can see that the momentum pivot is at 26,900. So that is to say that if Bitcoin can close above 26,900 in this weekly candle and in the 2-week candle, that will preserve momentum on the 2-week to the upside here. Otherwise, it would be an initial cross down. Now, the same thing over here on the 4-week, we can see that we have the momentum pivot, and it is very far away from price action currently at $16,000 on the 4-week. And the 4-week's going to have a chance to get the K read out of the bearish control zone here of Stokes. So that is something to keep an eye on this weekend. And, we don't really have too many more closures going on as it is the middle of the month. So we're just going to go back and down the time frames here and look at the weekly. We can see that weekly Stoke is pointed down. that's, going to happen when a weekly high is put in the critical areas. So this is still going to be the main area that I'm watching, is that weekly support at around that 24,300 area. So if Bitcoin does start to spike down outside of this range into the daily support in yellow, and that's 25.3 to 24.8, then I'd be looking for the weekly support down here at 24.3 to get tagged. Then, that could have an effect on something like the 2-week, right? Depending on when that happens, or if it happens, I should say, not when it happens, but if it happens, that would start to really open up the possibility of coming down to the monthly support here at 23.3. As it stands right now, I can't target those areas until we meet the conditions that were laid out earlier in the video. For weekly support, you can see it's going to be the same area up there at 31.8 to the 32.4, which is daily resistance, daily support and resistance, and weekly support and resistance rather, up here at that 31.8 to 32.4. And if things do take out the high here, the next logical area to head to is going to be the monthly support and resistance area at $35,000, which would be a nice markup. I know that many are looking for some lower prices. I wouldn't mind them either, but we just got to take what it's going to give us here. Now let's go ahead and turn on the Landy bands, which are a triple Bollinger Band indicator with built-in BBWP. Thank you again, Caretaker, for allowing me to use your source code. And excuse me while I adjusted my chair. In looking at the weekly, I have mentioned that closing below the upper first standard deviation, we begin targeting the basis band, and that basis band is still at 25.2. Now, let's say that Bitcoin holds the range and does not, by the end of the week, does not fall below the current low at 25.8 to come down here and hit this. Well, the basis band will naturally rise up in the next closure, and it's most likely going to be in and around where price action is when it opens. That is provided, of course, Bitcoin doesn't come down to meet it beforehand. Now, if Bitcoin did come down and lose that area, the next big area to the downside when trending in an upwards direction here to hold support and to keep the trend relatively intact would be the lower first standard deviation, which is currently coming in at around 21.8. And while it's not on like a major support, there is daily support in that area. So it's not something that I have called out, but if Bitcoin starts choosing the downside route, you'll start seeing that area called out on my charts where that daily support is showing up. Now, it's got to get through some of the more major supports down below anyway. So I do think there's time to prepare if that is the route chosen. Now, back above the upper first standard deviation, which is coming in at 28,600, that is the daily breakout area. If Bitcoin can get back above there, I would expect it to come up and run this upper second standard deviation, and look where that's coming in, right at 31,995, so $32,000. And for context, we can just go ahead and make the chart really messy for a moment, but you can see how everything is kind of lining up. We've got the upper first standard deviation on the weekly is right there at the daily breakout level at 28.6. We've got the upper second standard deviation coming right into the weekly resistance area overhead, and that daily support and resistance area overhead. So you can even see the upper third standard deviation starting to curl down towards that monthly support and resistance level at $35,000. You can see where our basis band is down here at the support. So all of this stuff, if Bitcoin chooses these upside or downside routes, you're most likely going to see pandemonium on Twitter and YouTube, and the oh my gods, it's dumping, or the oh my god, it's pumping, and you're going to see a lot of hysteria usually for clicks. And just keep an eye on the important levels, right? So just remember or mark on your chart where these levels are for support and resistance. If you're using these Bollinger Bands, which you can find in the link in the description, you can also find them typically in the first pinned comment. I try to put a link to the indicator there. You can also use this or use your own. It's just triple Bollinger Bands, and I have labels and stuff and other strategies built in. I'm not going to get into that right now, but in the future I will. But you can also define BBWP. I just have the default settings that Caretaker uses, the 252 look back, an SMA 5-period SMA, and let's go and just double check. We are using, that is a built-in 5-period SMA. It's not going to show in there. I have it hard-coded right now, but I will make it available for you guys to change it if you want. But we have the BBWP length is a 13. So just the normal settings that you would get when you search the free indicator that Caretaker created, which is worth putting on your chart as well. I still have it on my chart here, but just Bollinger Bands with width percentile by the Caretaker. And you can also get that just as a separate indicator on your chart. I have that up here. And if you're not used to using it, the box down here might not be enough reference for you. You can just look at the actual oscillator up here. You can see that this is mean reversion, right? Bitcoin's coming off of a strong downtrend, and it's mean reverting back up. So strong downtrend and then mean reversion back up. So while the BBWP is direction neutral, this is giving us the idea that, you know, this is not ready to break out to like brand new all-time high runs right now. But when BBWP does get pretty low, we're going to be looking for, you know, hopefully an upside move for the bulls, right? If you're really bearish, you want to see a downside move back to some of these key areas so that you can buy again, because every bear is really a bull and every bull is really a bear. So in this case, we're looking at a bit of mean reversion right now back to the basis band, and we had mean reversion on the monthly is where we're seeing the main mean reversion. So this was our big downside move. And then, you know, even after BBWP is cooling down, because the Bollinger Bands are still expanding, in this case, off of that move, you know, they're still ticking down, and we made those lower lows. And now this is where we got nice expansion to the upside. Even though Bitcoin started cooling down back here, we still saw an additional move up because the Bollinger Bands were still pretty spread out. So what you want to see is a nice consolidation within a range that holds support, and then re-expansion of the BBWP metric, which means re-expansion of the Bollinger Bands. If you're above the basis, we're going to most likely head up, especially above the upper first and upper second. Then, you know, it would be expansion to the upside. If we're below the basis band, and especially below the lower first, lower second, we're going to see expansion to the downside. So that's how that works. I'm not looking for big bad moves right from where things are right now. So, and if we do get you know, further moves, I do think that, especially to the upside, it is more likely because we are above that basis band. But, you know, we still have to wait and watch this develop from the weekly time frame perspective. So watch the 2-week, watch the 4-week closure with this weekend's weekly closure, and, you know, kind of keep an eye on that daily, because those daily support and resistance levels are going to be very, very important. Now, just a quick daily overview. It's going to remain basically the same. You know, we'll see what things update to later, but it's going to basically be the same as what it was yesterday. So back, let me actually get this centered up a little bit for you. Back above the lower, well, we hit both targets from yesterday's Bitcoin in 60 seconds video. So we hit that, that 26.5 to 26.8 target to the downside, and we fulfilled that 27.5 target to the upside. So on that wick, so we hit 2 targets from yesterday's video. The next area would be right here around $28,000, where the basis band is coming in. This is going to tick down slightly below there, but the target's still going to be this low, around $28,000. If it can get above there, I'd look to 28.6. That's the next big area. Above 28.6, you know, I do think that 29K at least is going to be pretty expected in and around here. $28,800 to $29,000 in this high structure where we have the close, the open, and the close around 29,000, 28,200, 29, where the upper first currently is. Now, Bitcoin can close above the upper first standard deviation. That's where we can start targeting $29,500 to $30,000, and just take it one step at a time, because I do think Bitcoin will knock its head on $30,000 at this upper second standard deviation. That's going to be a big area that you're going to see a lot of shorts most likely come in. So that's going to be the area to watch if you do start seeing things just generally closing above 28.6. You know, it could fail anywhere below that $30,000 area, but that's going to be a big area if Bitcoin does try to push through. Then I'd look for this area to start holding, and then we start targeting these highs up here. That's going to be it for today, and I hope you have had a wonderful week last week and a wonderful weekend. I hope the start of your week this week has been great. If you did find this video helpful, please go ahead and like, comment, share. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn on the bell for notifications, because what I'm finding is the algorithm has been very finicky about actually picking up the videos. You know, it's a small channel, and getting traction on some of the short videos on certain days, and then other days not. It's just not showing up for people, even in their subscription feed. So now I know why everyone says turn on the bell or hit the bell for notifications. But yeah, go ahead and share this around too if you do think that people would find it helpful. I want to wish you a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you're in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all that said, Landy out.